Ladies and gentlemen, meet the brand new Hyundai Palisade, and it competes with very popular full-size three-row crossovers like the Toyota Highlander, the Honda Pilot, and of course the brand new Ford Explorer. But more interestingly, it is a direct cousin to the Kia Telluride, which is red hot right now. So let's say you've decided on buying a three-row crossover and you can't decide between the Palisade or the Telluride. Well, there are three things that distinguish this from its cousin. In this video, I'm going to show you those three things. Now, normally we'd start this review with what's under the hood, but let's face it, if you're going for a family hauler, you want to know what's in the car. And the cool thing about the Palisade is that not only can you get it in this 7-passenger setup, but if you get the base model, you actually get 8-passenger. These captain's chairs become a regular bench seat that allows for 8 family member seating, and that is very useful. And let's start with the first difference between the Palisade and the Telluride, and for that I'm gonna have to go out back. Let's face it, with family haulers, it's not about 0 to 60, but about 0 to open. I mean, imagine if you had your arms full of babies or groceries and you needed to get into the back of this vehicle. Hyundai says it's got the fastest opening tailgate in the biz. 5 seconds. Let's time it together. 3, 2, 1, go! Baby's crying, groceries falling out, 5 seconds, not bad. Now here's the biggest difference between the Telluride and the Palisade, and it has to do with these buttons right here. The Palisade has electric folding seats, so let's give it a shot. Look at that. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And of course, if you need more room and you don't want to go to all the problems of actually having to go to the front of the vehicle, you can use these two buttons right here and fold the second row. That is a lot of room. Plus, right here you've got a little bit more storage room. Now there is a price to be paid for having electric folding seats. It's about 1 to 2 cubic feet of space. But what does that mean in real terms? Well, let's find out. Usually, getting into the third row of these family crossovers, well, that's a penalty box, but Hyundai has done some thoughtful engineering. Let me show you. To get to the back row, you push this button, and the second row automatically scoots out of the way. There's a grab handle right here so you can get in without looking like you're a clown in one of those clown cars. And then when you're in this back row, of course the problem with crossovers is that your knees are relatively high, unlike a minivan, because this is a much taller vehicle. But look at this magic button right here. I push it, and the rear seat reclines. Now that is not a penalty box. Welcome to this episode of Will It Fit? That's right, here at TFL we like to see just how much fits behind the third row of a modern crossover. And I've got an empty cooler that, well, is relatively large, square, and boxy, and the question is, will it fit? And now for the test. Yes, it'll fit. With family haulers, it's really not about cylinders, but about cup holders, and this Palisade has the most cup holders of any vehicle that I've been in, at least recently. And by the way, if you do care about cylinders, it's a V6, puts out 291 horsepower and 262 pound-foot of torque, and it's mated to an 8-speed automatic. But let's talk about the more interesting thing, cup holders. First and foremost, come over here, let me show you this. There are two really funky and cool cup holders in the center console. You push this button, and look at that. A little gate comes shooting out of the side of the center console, and you have not one, but 2 cup holders. But wait, there's a lot more. There's, of course, your mandatory cup holder right here in the door. So 2 front doors, 2 more cup holders for a grand total of 4. But wait, there's a lot more. Now in the second row, you not only get 1, not only get 2, but in fact 3 cup holders in the door. And once again, multiply that by 2 and you're at 6, plus 4 in the front row, that's 10. But wait, there's yet more. Yeah, I'm 6'2", and of course, because it's a high floor, I don't have that much headroom, but we're counting cup holders. So back here, you get not 1, but 2 cup holders. Double that, that's 4. So if I'm keeping track, that means 10 plus 4 is 14 cup holders. And if you think that's a lot, you should see how many USB ports this has. Keeping your stuff charged is of course critical in the modern world, whether you're going to work, going to school, or going on a road trip. So let's see how many ways I can charge my iPhone, and let's count USBs. That's 1 on this side. Of course, there's another one on that side for the 3rd row passengers. And over here for the 2nd row passengers, check this out. There's a very thoughtful little charging USB port built into the side of the seat. So each passenger has their own way of charging their electronics. That's 4. And of course, there's many more in the front. Let me show you. If you're in the front and you need to power your device, well, there are multiple options, starting with a little USB port that's hidden in the center console cubby right there, along with a 12-volt charger. Plus, there's another one right here. That's a little bit more convenient, but there's something really cool and really tricky. Check this out. In the center console, they've put a little cubby and a hole so that you can actually string your wire. Well, let me show you from the other angle. Yep, you can string your cable through the center console and plug it in right there. Plus, there's of course another 12-volt charger accessory port. And if you're carrying a purse, there's a little bit of a purse tray. Very thoughtful. And if you hate cables like me, there is of course wireless phone charging right there. Look at that. Hi, Tommy. At the start of this video, I said that there are 3 ways that this Palisade differs from the Telluride. The number 2 way is right here. It's what you're looking at. It's this big 12.3-inch configurable screen. And it actually changes based on what drive mode you're in. So if I put it in sport, it gets sporty. And if I put it in comfort, it gets chill and calming. And if I set it in eco, you guessed it, it turns green. And of course, if I put it in snow, it really gets chill and cold. And it's only not the center screen that changes. Also, this secondary screen lets you know what mode you're in, and it also changes in very similar ways. We're rolling on 20s, and what's interesting about that is not that we're rolling on 20s, but that these are street tires. So if you're thinking that this is an off-roader, well, a light off-roader might be the best description. But there is something that's unique and interesting about the Palisade that's different from the Telluride, and this is a hint as to the biggest way that these two are different, and that is you can actually get the Palisade in a 2-wheel drive model in the upper trim levels, unlike the Telluride, which makes it, well, a little bit less expensive than a Telluride. But this does have a rather sophisticated all-wheel drive system, so depending on which mode you're in, the car will automatically appropriate more torque and power to the front wheels if you're in eco, more torque and power to the rear wheels if you're in sport, and of course, it has a pretty cool feature. Let me show you on the inside. When you're in snow mode, it will not only start in 2nd gear to give you a little bit more traction, but there's this button. Yep, a center diff lock. So now you can appropriate power 50-50 front and rear. If you're a fan of premium German automobiles, you've probably noticed that they're all looking alike. They all have the same design language. Well, Hyundai has taken a different road, and they're calling it the chessboard design language. What does that mean? Well, like a chess piece, they all have the same base, but the tops are different. So every Hyundai has this sort of trapezoidal design, but unlike the Germans, they're not all the same. So for instance, this does have a lot of similarities to the Kona in that this top light is actually the daylight running light, and the main headlight and high beam are down here. So have you figured out the 3rd way that this Palisade is different from the Telluride? We showed it to you. Did you see it? Well, if you haven't, it's right here. It's shift by wire. Yep, it's got a push button transmission. So if you like pushing buttons to engage gears, you'll love it. And if you don't, well, then you'll have to settle for the fact that in this upper trim level, this Hyundai has not only vented and heated seats in the 1st row, but also back here in the 2nd row. Let's talk about driver safety tech, because this now has the ubiquitous suite of all those driver aids. Specifically, it's got stuff like, well, a 360-degree camera that you can change to show different parts of the vehicle. It also shows you your surrounding, but perhaps the more interesting and unique part of this is, if you're a fan of Honda, you'll know that when you signal right, in the center display you get a little camera view of what's to the right of you. Hyundai has taken that to the next step. Not only does it have blind side monitoring, so the little lights will flash in the mirror when there's a car next to you, but it will also show you what's next to you, not only when you signal right, but also when you signal left. And these two circles that are usually your tachometer and your speedometer turn into cool little round cameras that show you what's next to you. I think that's pretty unique and pretty cool. Now you may be wondering, what don't I like about the new Palisade? Well, that list is pretty short. I don't like the fact that this shade is only here in the second row but not in the third row. I'm not sure I'm in love with the style. It's kind of growing on me. It's one of those things that's very personal, so I'll let you decide. And probably a third thing I don't like is the fact that it doesn't have a turbo. Today, turbos make for more power and relatively good fuel economy. And if you're wondering, two-wheel drive version of the Palisade gets 19, 26, and 22 combined, but that's only the front-wheel drive version. If you want all-wheel drive, you're gonna have to pay $1,700 more. Let's say you're in the driver's seat and you have a question. What is that, Ian?
Are we there yet?
Well, Ian, because of this Talk Now feature, I can amplify my voice and let you know, no, we are not there yet. I can also let you know that the base model, the SE, starts at $31,150, the SEL at $33,500, and this fully loaded limited at $44,700. That's my best radio voice. Anyway, that's pretty cool. I know you guys like Quirks, so let me show you kind of the two biggest Quirks, or maybe interesting features of this Palisade. First, of course, is this air vent. Now, normal air vents, just like those in the airplane, will just blow air in your face, and let's face it, that's not very comfortable. Well, Hyundai has created a little switch right here that when you flick it, gently dissipates the air throughout the vehicle. So no longer is it blowing on my face. It is now gently wafting across my nose. The other cool feature is right here. Now that is a occupant sensor. So for instance, if you leave an animal or a child or a baby in the back seat and you close the car and lock it and forget about it, this sensor will notice motion and then it will either honk the horn or send you a text or let you know in the app that there is a living thing in the back of this vehicle, so that, well, you can come back and do the right thing and let them out. Do you hate when you hear that? Banging seatbelts? Well, Hyundai has thought of that as well. Not only do you slide the seatbelt in, but you can also clip it in place like so that it won't bang. And because, of course, there's a third row, same exact mechanism for the third row. So no more banging seatbelts. Now, in case you're wondering, that is the lovely Spokane River over my left shoulder, and Hyundai flew me out here to lovely Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, to drive and review this new vehicle. And they told me that if you're interested in one of these, they'll be hitting your local dealership any day now, certainly by the end of the month. On this edition of Will It Tow, we get to find out if the new Hyundai Palisade will tow. And to find out, we've got two Wave Runners that should weigh less than 5,000 pounds with the trailer, because the max towing on the Palisade is 5,000 pounds. Now, you guys know that when you're towing, especially when you're towing heavy, and 5,000 pounds isn't exactly heavy, but nevertheless, when you're towing, you get a lot of rear end squat. Well, in upper trim levels of the Palisade, you can get these auto leveling rear dampers, not only for better ride control and better body control, but to get away with towing 5,000 pounds and not getting any squat. So by now you've probably figured it out. The biggest difference between the Palisade and the Telluride isn't that the Palisade is a little bit more value oriented and the Telluride is a little bit more rugged. It's the fact that the Palisade is actually a little bit less expensive when you option them up the same way. So really it depends on what you want. Do you want more of the rugged square jawed Telluride, or do you want more of the value elegance of the Palisade? That's a decision I'll leave up to you. As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fast Lane Car. Check out tflcar.com for more news, views, and of course, first drive early. You saw it first on the Fast Lane Car Palisade reviews.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. That's right, it's Godzilla versus Bigfoot. Is the Japanese monster stronger than the American Bigfoot Ford? Find out on Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.